Hello, I'm back with episode 3 of Temporal Lobe Epilepsy. And another thing I wanted to mention were the fogs. You can just fog out. And when I say fog out, it means what your intentions of doing for the day are not going to happen. You just kind of do something else, and you actually experience things around you as being foggy. I was supposed to go to school one day and found myself riding my bike around the lake in a brief moment of lucidity in a fog. I spent the entire day riding my bike in a fog instead of going to school. And I didn't even... I had a slight sense that I was supposed to be in school or at least somewhere else, but I couldn't do anything about it, and I just kept riding my bike. And that happened fairly often, things of that nature. Also, there are things that I call time bubbles, and a good example of one, I was working in a restaurant down in Lansing, Michigan, and I came out of the walk-in cooler, and as I stepped out, I froze. And I froze in mid-stride. I could not move. I'm holding this thing of strawberries. And my boss is off to the left of me at her workstation. And I'm paralyzed. I couldn't move. And she is looking at me. There is like an actual bubble around me. That's how it appeared. And I could see her very jerkily, like in slow motion, looking at me. And the expression on her face was just priceless. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, what is happening? I don't know what to do, and I know my boss is thinking I am a total nut job, and I can't move. And time is going normally for me inside the bubble, but everything outside of the bubble was slow motion. And then suddenly, it was like a jerk and another jerk, and I was out of the bubble. And the only thing that I could do was walk to my station and pretend it never happened. I still don't know to this day what my boss was thinking at that point. Yeah, I just pretended it never happened. But things like that, the time bubbles, would happen periodically. And there are so many facets to temporal lobe epilepsy. I've since talked with other people who have it, and they have very similar experiences. Some are very different. I have hallucinations of taste, touch, and smell. We talked about that. Like, sometimes if I'm drinking something or eating something, it will taste like lead. There are times when I smell cat feces, and there are no cats, no litter boxes, no anything around me. There are times when I will see... Now, the visual hallucinations were interesting. You'd feel this, I guess they call it an aura now is the technical term, but you'd get this feeling that something was different in the universe. And then you would experience a vision of some type. And nowadays, it happens very infrequently. Usually I just see a big blue pillar of smoke, like stuff. But they could be multisensory, and since you are hyper spiritual and you don't know how to associate this with anything else, you begin to experience things regarding your belief system at the time. And that's one thing I did notice over the years. As my belief system, spiritual belief systems changed, so did the hallucinations. But they aren't like, I guess they are hallucinations where you think it's really happening, but you know it's not real. I mean, it's not physically there, so it's not like an all-on hallucination. And also, I have a problem with oversensory stimulation, which can bring on the epilepsy, but it can also bring on other types of hallucinations. Like, this is my favorite example because it scared the crap out of me. I was driving down Main Street Cadillac, and there was, I came to a four-way stop. There was a red light, and there was a red car beside me, and there was a big semi-truck across the road. And suddenly my brain put together those two images and turned it into a fire truck that was barreling toward me. And I am seeing this fire truck coming, I mean, just crash on right through the intersection at me. I slammed on my brakes, because it was before I had gotten to the red light. Traffic was still moving. And I slammed on my brakes, and fortunately, nobody got hurt, and people stopped, and the truck went away. It just disappeared. But I knew then that I should probably limit my driving as much as possible. And people always wondered why I wanted somebody else to drive. I'd always be asking, having my best friend drive. I didn't want to do it. But I also didn't want to explain to them the stuff that was happening to me, because I didn't know how to explain it, and I didn't know what it was. And it wasn't, and like I said, it wasn't hallucinatory as in like schizophrenia. It was different. And I didn't know what to do. I just thought it was best to drive as little as possible. And eventually I stopped driving. Although I still retain a driver's license, even though I'm legally blind. It's just easier for ID. But to sum it up, temporal lobe epilepsy can truly destroy your life, particularly if you're a woman and you do end up with female issues as well. I had to quit many jobs. I was fired from a couple of jobs because of the epilepsy that I didn't know I had. And I had to quit school on a couple of occasions because of the effects of the epilepsy. And the female problems associated with it. It really bulldozed my life, and I didn't even know what was happening to me. And my family just thought I was lazy, and I was this, and I was that, and I was making it up, I was lying, and then your self-esteem just plummets, your family doesn't want anything to do with you anymore, you have no idea what's going on, and things like this go on until you get the vaccine that destroys your life physically. And also, nobody believes you about that. After a while, they do. after they've seen what happens to you firsthand. They start believing that. But this is about temporal lobe epilepsy, and if you have any of the symptoms that I've mentioned, please bring it up to your doctor, to your psychiatrist. Find out if it could be the temporal lobe epilepsy, because you may not be a guru, and you may not be somebody with a special gift, although those are, wonderful things to think about. You may just have epilepsy. And if it's a bad form, if these are things that are hindering your life, if you're not getting enjoyment from it or spiritual satisfaction, it's bringing you fear, see a doctor and mention temporal lobe epilepsy. Just drill it into his head if you have to. Find somebody who will listen to you. Find a psychiatrist who will listen to you. Because unless you're diagnosed, I finally got diagnosed by that of psychology at Rochester University, and in New York. And okay, it wasn't, they didn't do the whole like dig into my brain and put the electrodes on my skull thing, but because of my history, because of the things that they witnessed, he also had used hypnosis, and various things happened, and there were just so many details that he was absolutely sure that I had temporal lobe epilepsy. So I'm taking his word for it. And because it is the only thing that explains everything I had to live through. So please seek help. Not that there is much help. I guess some people respond to Dilantin. Other people, if it's really bad, they will go in and have brain surgery where they try to remove the lesions off the temporal lobe. I'm really not interested in that. And as I've gotten older, it's decreased, and I understand when I'm having an episode, so there's really no reason for me to do it anymore. And so there you have it. That is temporal lobe epilepsy in 3 episodes. And soon I will be talking about other things. Whimsical, medical, spiritual, non-spiritual. And I'll be talking about UFOs. And I will be talking about all kinds of fun things. So stay tuned, kids.